You've already started to listen to a MultipleSources.net podcast, and for more episodes of It's Always Sunny in Phoenix podcast, as well as other content such as other NBA teams, pro wrestling, and even comic books, oh what? Visit MultipleSources.net. And if you want to join the MS family, go to their website. MS is always looking for more writers and other podcasts, as well as video editors. If you want to join the family, just go to MultipleSources.net and check out the sidebar or something. They got something set up. Check it out. Hello, everyone, and welcome to It's Always Sunny in Phoenix, a weekly podcast where we keep you up to date on everything Phoenix Suns basketball. You can go ahead and follow us on Twitter at SunnyInPHXPod. Yeah, that's right. I know what I'm doing. Or send us an email at SunnyInPhoenixPod. Is that right, Mitch?
SunnyInPHXPod@gmail.com.
See, it's that easy. We can do this. There's Facebook, Phoenix Suns, multiple sources. You can go ahead and check us out. Of course, our website is multiplesources.net/Phoenix Suns. And of course, the big one, go check us out on iTunes. We are on there. How about that? I know it's crazy. I forget it myself sometimes. But go rate, review, all that jazz on iTunes, because that's what we all want to see. Rate, review, comment, leave. Wait, no, that's part of a review. Anyways, we're just going to keep on going. So as you can tell, I am David and not Chuck, as we've completely butchered this intro, but you know, that's what it is. And sitting alongside me through the internet is Mitch. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I mean, just on that work grind, really.
Yep. I am totally the same way. It's very apparent how lost we are without Charlie, so we miss you. We hope you're enjoying visiting with your family, and we're really excited for you to listen to this. This is the first time that we've recorded a man down without me being the one who's gone. So are
you sure?
Yeah, it is. It definitely is. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting. I'm excited to see how the two-person podcast goes.
Well, it'll be something. And you actually had, work-wise, we're going to just kind of go into this a little bit in our intro. Yeah. You had something to say real quick, so why don't you go ahead and say that?
I do. I have some exciting news for everyone. A couple weeks back, I mentioned that I had gotten a job as a sports writer in a small town in Iowa. Well, life moves pretty fast sometimes, and I had a pretty cool opportunity come up, so I am now working for the Iowa Energy in Des Moines. They're the D-League affiliate of the... Thank you. They're the D-League affiliate of the Memphis Grizzlies, so go Grizzlies as well. So yeah, I'm really excited about that, and just to anyone aspiring to work for a team, keep trying. Teamwork Online is your best friend. Use Teamwork Online, and keep an eye out and just work hard, and eventually it'll pay off and you'll get noticed. And yeah, I'm excited. I just started today. We're recording on Monday today. So just started, and it's going well so far.
Well, that's awesome. And I really just wanted to get through that real quick, because I know we haven't really talked about what we're going to talk about, right. But this is a big deal and it's really awesome. And, I am super jealous of you, but I mean, it is what it is. So we are, of course, jealous of that, but we're also jealous of how awesome our Suns looked in Summer League, especially a certain second year Armani and a certain 5'10" point guard. So we're going to go ahead and talk about Summer League a little bit more in depth. We, of course, fell short against the Minnesota Timberwolves last night. Yeah.
Yep.
Afternoon, whatever. Times are hard. We fell short against a really tough Timberwolves team in the semifinals. Couldn't make it up. And so we're kind of just going over at a complete look, a little bit more in depth of our Summer League in general, more than just the couple of games that we talked about last week. So we're going to do that. Then we're going to go ahead and hop into the Olympics and the select team, because the select team is really interesting and a lot of fun. So we've already done our intros. So we're just going to go ahead and jump into Summer League. So the Suns finished the week 4-2. Their two losses were against the Miami Heat the first time, I believe. Correct, Mitch?
Yep, that's correct.
All right. And then the Timberwolves There was some really good defense from the Suns. There, of course, the competition is a little bit less than NBA competition, but these are still players. A lot of them are going into the NBA or playing professional basketball in general. So, some really good hard plays. Of course, we got to talk about the all tournament team. Big Sauce, the homie, Alan Williams, made first team for the Summer League, and Tyler Ulis made second team for the all tournament team. So really awesome that both those guys could do it. A little bit not as high profile as guys like Booker or Bender or Chris, but they still played their hearts out and played really well. Big Sauce averaged 12 points and 11 rebounds a game and was a pretty good presence. He was grabbing those boards, as you can see, with the 11 rebounds, and had some really nice post moves that I hadn't seen from him. So
Right, yeah.
that's kind of nice to see that he is working on that, and maybe we can see a couple of those moves against some other NBA players. And then Ulis, of course, averaged 14.5 points, 6.3 assists, and 2.8 steals per game.
Yeah.
I know we kind of talked about it last week, but watching him in person, it seemed like he had way more than the 6 steals he had against the Celtics, and I swear was slapping the basketball on every single possession. It was ridiculous. And he was pretty efficient and was really that floor general that we haven't really had a pure floor general in a while, and not a
No.
ball dominant floor general either.
Mhm.
So all of that is just really nice to see, and I'm really excited to see him play. And I know he's going to get playing time, and that's really exciting. Just watching this guy play and just knowing that he is going to get that playing time because he just works ridiculously hard.
He does, yeah. It's really impressive. Tyler Ulis, he looked good. Those you mentioned the 6 steal game against the Celtics. I think he had another game with 5 steals. He was playing scrappy defense the whole time. You could tell he got a little tired in the last game against the Timberwolves, but that's the nature of summer league. You're playing a lot, and it's hot down in Las Vegas. But he looked really, really good. I was kind of thinking he would be a guy who would probably get more D-League minutes than anything, but nope. It sounds like he's going to be making the team. And speaking of making the team, I think Alan Williams played. He knew he had to play well if he wants to stay on this roster, and I think he really showed that he can be a great guy to have on the bench. Come in, give some really hard minutes, grab some rebounds, box out, set some hard screens. He plays really tough. He plays really big. He is really physical. He was doing great at getting offensive rebounds and putting them back, cleaning the glass. I loved what I saw from Williams. I think he earned a roster spot. Really hope he makes it.
Yeah, watching Big Sauce, and I'm going to kind of continue to reference back to that Celtics game just because watching those guys in person is just a completely different story than watching them on TV.
It totally is.
Some of the screens that he was setting were like brick walls.
Yeah.
They were really strong screens. They were strong strings too, but strong screens. And he was knocking guys down because they were just running into him and trying to be a little bit physical back with him and just bouncing off. Dude is built like no other, and I think even being undrafted and kind of getting to about 10 games, I think is what he played last year.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I think that really helped him, and really helped him with getting that NBA body sorted out a little bit more. I'm really excited to watch him play and hope he can get some minutes this year.
Yeah, and it's things like that, those little things like setting a hard screen that can make a difference in a game sometimes. That's something that, guys are tired, maybe late third quarter, early fourth quarter, and you get hit by a brick wall like that, setting a screen, and what he's doing is clean, by the way.
Yeah, his feet are set. He's not moving. He was completely set. That's
Yes.
the better thing is how set and how perfect of a screen it was.
Yeah, it's great. It's very he's setting like textbook screens, and that's something that can be demoralizing for other guys. They get tired of getting hit basically every time down the court. I compare it kind of to offensive and defensive line in football. It's like one technique that some defensive coaches will have is, the nose guard or the guy, the lineman closest to the center should just hit the center as hard as he can every single time. And that wears the center down. And then he gets slow. And when the center is slow snapping the ball, the defense can get that first step a lot faster than the offense. And that's the same thing in basketball. You're setting these screens and slowing these guys down bit by bit on defense when they're playing defense. And then they come down on offense and they're still tired and they're demoralized, and then they want to go under the screen a little bit. That creates a little more space, or they go over and you just drive to the basket. It's a small thing, but it makes a big difference.
Yeah, and another just quick thing to point out with Big Sauce, he is 6'8", but
He plays
if
bigger.
you wouldn't have told me that, I would have thought that he was closer to 7 foot.
Right.
He
Yep.
just plays bigger than he actually is.
He does.
And talking, of course, about guys that play bigger than they actually are, Tyler Ulis. We talked about him a little bit, but just kind of going back to him, he had that buzzer beater against the Nuggets.
Yep.
And just played really good basketball. When you look at him, he was just not letting the opposing point guards get any space with him. He was just playing hard-nosed defense, and I think he can easily play in that Ronnie Price role that Ronnie Price played in last year. He only got a couple of minutes here or there, but he would come in, get a steal, get a back-to-back steal, and get a transition layup, and wasn't scoring a whole lot of points, but was just there and was that gym rat, that scrappy gym rat.
Yep, totally.
So we talked about those guys. Who are some other guys that you thought stood out on the Suns roster?
We talked about this guy already in his story, but Kyle Keurig, he's got a nice stroke. He was really hitting some nice shots. Didn't see him miss too often, so that was nice to see. And then Troy Williams, I also thought he played pretty well.
Yeah, Kyle Keurig, he averaged 9.7 points per game. Looked like he had no issues with the range of the NBA.
Right.
And looked like he could come into a game and just knock down some shots. And then Troy Williams, I had no idea who he was, except Chuck had told me a little bit about how remembered watching a couple college games and really liked him.
Okay.
So as I watched him play more and more, Chuck described him as the cutter that TJ Warren was, but not the finisher. And I could kind of see that. He had some of those strong cuts, not nearly as refined of an offensive game, but still pretty strong. And his jump shot's a little shaky, but he could definitely knock down some open shots. He averaged 12.3 points and 4.3 rebounds. He's a guy that maybe you put on our D League team and kind of see where he can go, because he might be able to fix that jump shot and get a little bit better.
Yeah, that would be nice to see for sure.
And if you look at our organization and you look at guys like TJ Warren and Eric Bledsoe, who are guys that were not known for their jump shot,
right,
and how they've been able to get that jump shot to where they're knockdown guys as part of the Suns organization, I think he's going to learn this is probably the organization to do it.
I agree. Yep. I think he's in a good spot.
And of course, we can't have a podcast where we don't talk about Devin Booker.
That's correct.
This is the first time where we're going to be talking about him. He had 2 games, or he played 2 games or 3 games?
2 games. Yeah.
2 games. Yeah. Averaged 26 points, 5 rebounds, 6.5 assists. So, he was playing pretty okay. Had that great game against the Celtics where him and RJ Hunter kind of went at each other and Booker treated him like a child, which was pretty great. But you know, Booker looked like he shouldn't have even have been playing in Summer League. We kind of talked about that already.
Yeah.
Played some real hustle defense, which you kind of saw flashes of in the regular season last year. You wouldn't know if you looked at just advanced stats, which a lot of normal NBA guys do, but had some real hustle
Right.
plays where he was getting transition blocks and was able to show that off a little bit in the Summer League. And he shouldn't have probably been playing at all, but it was fun to see him get a little warmed up, and being able to see him play that game against the Celtics was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys got to see him. You know, he was a step ahead of the competition, but I love that he wants to play. It just shows his competitive nature, and that's something I love to see. Um, yeah, he looked good, but what it really brings me to think about is more of a broad sense of how guys who have played a year in the league look especially like they're a step ahead of these rookies. And we touched on that in an earlier episode. But guys like Bobby Portis were playing really well, D'Angelo Russell also. It's just amazing what 1 year in the NBA can do. And you just adjust to that speed, the pace of the game, the just the small differences. And I mean, that's a reason why you see a lot of these rookies struggle, is because they're not used to the style yet. But yeah, this year especially, I really noticed the guys who played for a year looked like they were a step ahead.
Yeah, and even when you look at guys that weren't as recognized, D'Angelo Russell, he's going to get noticed because he's on the Lakers.
Right.
Larry Nance is going to get noticed because he's on the Lakers. Both those guys looked just ahead of the curve.
Right.
Nance just athletically, but he had that last year. Bobby Portis was getting a little bit more screen time because of the Bulls being undefeated at the moment that we're recording this. They're playing the Minnesota Timberwolves for that championship game. But then some other guys that didn't get as much shout outs, guys like Willie Cauley-Stein,
Oh,
guys like a Jeremy Grant, but just those guys, especially the bigger guys, and not as much TJ McConnell, because TJ McConnell looked good, but the other guys just looked bigger, and you could see it in their arms and their shoulders. And that's something that I know me and Chuck talked about when Skal Labissiere and Willie Cauley-Stein were standing next to each other.
Yeah, that's right.
Cauley-Stein is just built, and he looks like an NBA player. Where then you look at Skal, and Skal has the shoulders not as big and ridiculous as Willie Cauley-Stein, but his arms are just super thin. And then you look at guys like Thon Maker, who are just string beans. Brandon Ingram, string bean.
Yeah.
And it's just these second year guys have had that NBA training and just are built better. And you could even see it with someone like Devin Booker, who wasn't necessarily like a stupor stud was what I was going to say, a super stud when it comes to like muscles and stuff. But like his arms looked way more toned out, and he looked like where the rookies and stuff were getting tired, those second year guys just weren't, and were ready to keep on playing. And you could see that in the flow of the game. All right. And before we quit out on Summer League, do you have anyone else that are rookies or anyone that you want to shout out about their games?
Yeah, there's a guy on the Nuggets, Juan Hernan Gomez. Thought he looked really good. I didn't watch a ton of the Nuggets. We kind of talked about this in an earlier Summer League episode also, but in the game that the Suns played against the Nuggets, I was pretty impressed with Hernan Gomez. And then Wade Baldwin the fourth for the Grizzlies. Also, he looked really good. He looked really athletic. I guess I just didn't realize how athletic he is, but I was really impressed with what I saw from him too. But the Nuggets are a team that people kind of talk about the Nuggets being one of the more irrelevant teams in the league. I don't know how much longer that's going to last. I think the Nuggets are on an upswing.
Yeah, and I've said it before, I like it a little bit better when the teams of the like early mid 2000s get to where they're back and being able to be in the playoffs and stuff, whether that's the Lakers, the Suns, the T-Wolves. Like all those guys
Mm-hmm.
or all those teams, Nuggets. I'm looking forward a little bit to where they're back and being in the playoffs, just because I don't know. It's just something in me that's like, oh hey, now we're back to the mid 2000s. Everything's right again.
Yeah. Well, this year we'll see. The West is a very interesting conference now with the KD decision to go the Warriors, but that's a topic that has been over talked about already. So
Yeah, and we haven't talked about that, and we're not going to talk about that
yeah, yeah, and
because
that's
I don't
okay.
want to get angry.
That's okay. Yeah,
I want to talk about another point guard who played pretty darn well, in my opinion, and that is, of course, 5th overall pick Chris Dunn, the overall top point guard in the draft, and he definitely looked it. He is completely NBA ready. He was not nearly on the same level as those second year guys, but he was definitely above some of the other first year guys. Just his muscle, he wasn't afraid to get contact. He was not afraid to really take shots. Was passing the ball, was showing off some of his athleticism. While
yeah.
he was playing next to Tyus Jones, who kind of played more of point guard in their lineup, I really like Chris Dunn, and I think he's going to be really good quicker than some of the other guys.
That brings up a question that I was thinking about. Do you think the Timberwolves will make the playoffs this coming season?
I think they're still a year away.
Okay.
In my opinion, I think that in a year, I think that they will be able to have advanced enough. Chris Dunn will be in his second year. Andrew Wiggins will be in his fourth year, and he's been getting better every year. Cat will be in his third year, and if he gets better on how rookies normally do that are picked that high, if you look at someone like Anthony Davis, who jumped from year 1 to year 2 to year 3,
Right.
you can expect some pretty great things from Cat, and their role players will start to get a little bit of a better feel. If you look or if you follow Zach LaVine on Instagram or any of that kind of stuff, you see that he's putting in a ton of work on his jump shot this summer. So he's really trying to be that 2 guard for them, and they've kind of thrown away trying to play him as a point guard, which is best for him. Guys like Gorgie Dang, just those core guys, I think will be better next year and not this year. I think they'll be close, but I would expect them to make the playoffs next year.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that they have the talent on their team for this coming season to make the playoffs, but we'll see how they play together with the addition of Dunn. And they're still building that chemistry together. And that does take time. So, yeah, the talent's there, but they need the chemistry.
I would say as a wild card, the fact that Tibbs is their coach, it would not surprise me if they made the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think that Tibbs is just that good of a coach. I think he is a great coach, and he can get a lot out of point guards.
Yes.
As we saw with Derrick Rose having the MVP year, some of the backup point guards that were coming in and playing for them, like Aaron Brooks, DJ Augustine, those kind of guys who had really good years under Tibbs.
Yes.
I think that if there were a coach to come into a situation for a young team and take them from fifth worst seed to the playoffs, I think Tibbs is that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, they're going to be a fun team to watch.
Yep, and I do have one other guy, of course. You can't really not talk about him. First overall pick, Ben Simmons.
Right.
Just if we're talking about guys that are NBA ready, Ben Simmons is that guy.
Yes.
He is NBA ready. His jump shot is shaky as all get out, and their teams are going to let him shoot the ball. But he is just completely NBA ready. He is ready to go. He is ready to get dunks, to pass the ball, to play point forward. I don't know what stat line he's going to put up, but there are going to be nights where he has almost like 10 turnovers. But he's going to play really well, and you're not really going to pay attention to those as much because he's just going to rebound. He's going to pass the ball really well. A lot of it, his assist numbers will probably be down, than what they should be just because of the teammates that he has, but he could easily be a guy that starts getting double digit assist games and getting double doubles right out of the gate, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think he looks ready. He was impressive in summer league. Yeah, he's gonna do just fine in his first year in the NBA.
Yeah, and as I was talking about the string beans, Ben Simmons is not a string bean.
No.
He isn't as built as some guys in the NBA, but he's got the shoulders, he's got the body build already to really muscle his way in.
Yep.
When it comes to the paint.
Yeah.
So just real quick, do you have anyone else that you want to mention, or are you ready to move on?
No, I think I'm ready.
All right, so we're going to jump over to Team USA basketball. Scrimmages were starting this year. I guess this year.
Yeah.
But it's late. Scrimmages started today. If you were on Snapchat and following teams of guys that were on the select team, you were seeing some scrimmages with Devin Booker from the Suns. You were seeing Aaron Gordon and Boogie Cousins going up against each other. You were seeing Kyle Lowry and D'Angelo Russell going up against each other. Paul George, I think, was going up against Doug McDermott a couple of times. You saw DeAndre working out with Monty Williams. You saw a little bit of everything. And as the scrimmages started, let's just go ahead and jump into our roster right now.
Yes.
The Team USA roster, as we look down the list, we've got Kyrie Irving, Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan, Klay Thompson, Paul George, Jimmy Butler, Harrison Barnes, Carmelo Anthony, Kevin Durant, Draymond Green, DeMarcus Cousins, and DeAndre Jordan. And that is the roster. Just plain and simple.
Yeah.
That is 12 guys, so I think they can add 3, correct? They can go up to 15, right?
That sounds right.
I might be wrong on that, but this is the roster and basically how it's going to be constructed with rotations and everything. So just right off the bat, who do you think the starting lineup's going to be?
Oh, that is a really tough question.
I know, and that's why I asked it.
Yeah, it's a good one. There's a lot of different possibilities. I think so. I'm not going to go in order of position. I think that's a little too hard. I think KD has to start.
Yeah, no question.
Oh my gosh.
I mean,
guards,
DeMarcus Cousins starts. He starts over
Cousins.
DeAndre, right?
I would say so.
I mean, that's just what I'm assuming. I don't see DeAndre being better than DeMarcus, so
Yeah,
I'm just going to say that.
I would say DeMarcus Cousins.
I mean, we know Kyrie's going to start.
Kyrie, and then would you start Klay Thompson at the other guard? Or do you start
I
DeRozan?
think you do.
Klay Thompson,
I think you start Klay and have DeMar play with Lowry on the bench. Because at that point, you kind of you already have you give them a little bit of chemistry.
Yeah.
They know how to play together, and that'll help the other guys that are playing on the bench.
Yeah.
So,
okay, that's solid.
And then for the last spot, I think you start Paul George.
That's solid. I like that. Yeah, run Paul George at the 4.
I think that Paul George is probably the second best player on the team. I think it goes KD and then it goes Paul George. Carmelo Anthony is a god in international basketball, but
yeah,
I think he plays best as a 6th man. So,
okay.
I mean, Paul George is probably one of the best perimeter defenders in the league right now. No questions about it, while being able to also carry a heavy offensive load. You better have a really good reason to not start Paul George, in my opinion. And while Carmelo Anthony is a very good reason, I just think right now Paul George is just flat out better.
Yeah. Oh, I'm definitely with you there. Yeah, I think that's a pretty solid lineup. I mean, the Olympics is always kind of the U.S. versus everyone else. Spain is kind of in there. And there could always be someone who surprises you, but I mean, the U.S. is definitely the favorite, and I'm still excited to watch, and I think that's a really solid starting 5.
Yeah, and we we, the US of A, are always favorites in international ball. And one of our biggest weaknesses that we always have is that we don't really play with a lot of bigs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming that our center rotation is going to be DeMarcus Cousins, DeAndre Jordan, and then Draymond Green.
Right.
I'm just assuming.
That's what I would think.
Normally, if this was any of the last 8 years, we would have an issue playing against Marc Gasol, Pau, and Serge, that rotation. But Marc Gasol's not playing. He's still rehabbing that foot. I think he's rehabbing it at least. I'm going to roll with that. Pau is playing, but Pau is not the same Pau of 4 years ago.
No, definitely not.
And he is definitely losing a step, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. So I don't even know who is supposed to be the big threat, really. Do you think? Can you think of any team that could really challenge this U.S. team?
I really can't. I think it's going to be pretty easy for the U.S. this time around. I mean, it always is pretty easy, but I can't think of anyone who will really be a challenge like that those Spain teams have been in the past.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna have France. France made it in.
Oh, that's right.
I mean, I'm trying to think of who else. Yeah, I mean, there's just not as much competition. I mean, Brazil's going to have their team. We know Barbosa's playing there. I think Varejão's going to play too.
Oh,
both
wow.
those guys are old and a little rough. I could also be completely making up that Varejão's playing, but
let's hope so.
I mean, I just don't know. I'm trying to just pull at straws of guys that could be playing that could be an issue, and I'm just not getting anything. I think Spain's still going to be a tough team. I don't think that they're going to be a huge hurdle. I think France is going to be a tough team, but we might not even see them.
Right.
So, I mean, as silly as it is that so many guys dropped out of the Olympics for the U.S. and decided not to play, we're still fielding a team with a starting five of all-stars.
Right. Yeah. That's just the best part of U.S. basketball. We have the best players in the world, and
yeah,
it's always going to be fun to watch Olympic basketball.
Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite things every 4 years or even every 2 years. I love watching international ball.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know why. It's just the rules are a little bit different, and just watching our guys go play against some other guys that you don't necessarily see all the time, and then some NBA players. And it's just normally a whole lot of fun. If you haven't watched Team USA basketball and you're listening to this podcast, I would definitely recommend watching it.
Yes, and one thing I love about Olympic basketball is you have guys on the U.S. team wearing different numbers than usual. And I mean, it's a simple thing, but it's just interesting to see what numbers these guys pick. I think Booker was wearing 26 when he was playing for the select team. So that was kind of interesting. You know, it's fun for these guys to kind of let loose a little bit and try new things with their numbers, I guess.
Yeah, and not only numbers, but they were talking about NBA's Instagram had a picture of Kyrie guarding Kyle Lowry.
Oh, yeah.
And talking about how they just guarded each other 2 months ago in the playoffs or a month and a half ago in the playoffs. Now they're on the same team.
Right.
That's one of my favorite things is seeing these guys that normally are playing against each other and really playing up to their abilities, playing up to those abilities on the same team.
Yeah.
That's definitely my favorite team of Olympic basketball or national basketball in general, is watching guys that are not going to be on the same team. I normally would say like Kevin Durant and Steph Curry, but that's not a thing. But like we're going to see Kyrie Irving playing with Paul George and DeMarcus Cousins, and that's probably not something that we're going to see.
Right.
Those three guys aren't going to go to some random NBA Team X and join up and play. They're going to stay in their markets for right now. If they do move, it's not going to be the same one, but just watching those guys play together, watching guys like Kyle Lowry and You're going to see Kyle Lowry and Carmelo, and
Right.
Klay Thompson and DeAndre, and that kind of stuff. Seeing these different combination of guys is just a ton of fun to watch. If you watch 2012, watching that starting lineup that was Chris Paul, Kobe, LeBron, KD, and Tyson Chandler was a ton of fun to watch, and it's the best. If you aren't watching Team USA basketball this summer, definitely do it.
Yeah, and this is where some of those NBA relationships are born. Like everyone talks about the Dwayne Wade, LeBron, Chris Bosh relationship. That was born from Olympic basketball.
Yeah, not only were those guys drafted at the same, but they were playing Olympic basketball up until 2012.
Right.
Or playing international ball like every other year. So they were getting those relationships, and they had no issues. As much as the Heat struggled at first when those guys got all together, their play together I didn't think was ever the issue. Those guys could play together, and I think that was really born from the Olympic basketball. I completely agree with you.
Yep. It is cool to see. Some people aren't happy about that big three and all that, but that's a whole different story. It's cool to see these guys form these relationships.
And something that I kind of enjoy even cooler on a nerdy basketball level is the select team. You hear about these select teams every once in a while, and just some of the names that end up on them. Gordon Hayward would normally be a guy that probably would have made the Olympic team, I think.
Yeah.
And was on the select team a few years ago. Harrison Barnes was on the select team a few years ago. Guys like, some of these guys that are younger guys that are starting to get up onto the Olympic team start on that select team. So we're going to talk about, of course, our one son on the select team, Devin Booker, because we haven't talked about him enough already this podcast. But he's on the select team. There were some drills that he was playing in the select team scrimmage and the USA scrimmage. Did you see who he was playing against at all?
I did a little bit. I just saw the Suns Snapchat story, and it looked like Devin Booker was guarding Kevin Durant for a little bit.
Well, you got to experiment with Devin Booker at the 3 and 4 now. So
yeah, but
he's going to be that stretch 5 in a few years.
Well, okay, I don't know about that, but that is something that is so good for a guy like Booker to guard Kevin Durant. That's even if it was 10 minutes, 5 minutes that he guarded him, there's so much he can learn from having to guard a guy like Kevin Durant. So that is awesome experience for him.
Yeah, and this is basically taking those 2 games that he had against Miami, where he was playing against Dwayne Wade, and just bumps it up, because he's going to be doing this not twice a year. He's going to be doing it for a couple of weeks, where he's going in every day and just guarding these guys. He's going to be guarding probably Jimmy Butler. He'll be guarding Kevin Durant, Paul George, probably not Carmelo, I don't think, but just some of those guys, maybe guard DeMar DeRozan. He's going to be guarding these guys, and there's nothing better for a young guy than just going up against that all-star competition. And every year that we have these kind of things, you see the guys come back from it, and they take all that experience and put it into their game.
Yes.
Or at least 90% of them do.
Yeah, totally. And, the older guys can really share some of their wisdom with these young guys. And you see a guy like Chris Dunn playing on the select team as well. That's going to be huge for him coming into his rookie season. I think that's going to put he already looks good, but that's going to put him even more a step above this rookie class.
Yeah, you want to look at the rookies that are actually on the select team. You're going to look at Malcolm Brogdon, who I didn't realize was actually on the team until just now. You're going to look at Chris Dunn. You're going to look at Brandon Ingram. You're going to look at Bryce Johnson.
Yep.
You're going to look at Denzel Valentine. I mean, these guys are all rookies going in and being able to play against these all-star caliber players. I mean, whatever opinion you have on these guys, that is huge on these guys, and is going to do nothing but help their game, in my opinion. You're never going to hear about it hurting their game when they play these games. And then even some of these second and third year guys, we talked about Devin Booker, but you're looking at guys like Aaron Gordon, Zach LaVine, D'Angelo Russell, Julius Randle, Jabari Parker,
Yeah.
Willie Cauley-Stein, Jahlil Okafor. These guys are just going to be absorbing so much and be able to add so much to their games just from this. Guys like D'Angelo Russell and Devin Booker are probably going to be able to work a little bit on their post game and learn some stuff from those other guys when they're playing against mismatches, because Devin Booker's 6'6", I think, and D'Angelo Russell 6'5". Those guys are going to be able to work on those mismatches. Zach LaVine and Aaron Gordon are going to be, and even Willie Cauley-Stein to another extent. These athletic guys who a lot of people don't know have any other games besides just catching lobs and doing crazy dunks.
Right.
These guys are going to be able to work on their games. You're going to see Zach LaVine work a ton on his jump shot. You're going to see Aaron Gordon work a ton on his jump shot, where these guys can try and add more to their games and be more than just athletic freaks.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's also going to help with their defensive games. Having to guard these all-star level players, they're going to have to step up, and they're going to want to show that they can play defense on these guys. They can hang with these guys. These guys are the cream of the crop right now, but these select guys are far off, but aren't completely far off. Like, they're not like high school guys going up and trying to play in the NBA. These guys are NBA players.
Right. Well, and I want to go back to one thing you said about the post-up game for Booker and Russell. They will be working with Klay Thompson, who is great at doing that as a guard. And we've all heard the Booker-Thompson comparisons, and that's going to be really great. And I'm sure Booker will get some time guarding Klay Thompson. And just being able to guard Thompson when he posts up is going to be huge for Booker to experience and to learn from. And hopefully Booker gets the chance to show a little of his work in the post on Thompson as well. And they could have an exchange about how that goes, So that's another really exciting aspect of it.
Yeah. But a really not talked about portion of Klay Thompson's game, when everyone just wants to label him as a 3-and-D guy, is the fact that his mid-range game and his post-up game are really, really strong. And Devin Booker going up against that is going to really help him, and help him when it comes to guarding it, help him when it comes to using some of those moves. Because if he, with his little bit of size, and there not really being other true shooting guards in the league anymore, and everyone kind of being a little bit closer to combo guards, him with that size can really give him mismatches.
Yes, definitely.
All right, and do you have anyone else that you might want to just shout out for that select team?
No, I think we covered it.
All right on. Then what we're going to go ahead and do is go to the end of the podcast, where we do our fun little shout outs of plugs.
Yes.
We have my own comic book corner, and okay, I have this actually written out in front of me, so that way I don't have to try and remember it. Mitch's face melting metal minute.
Oh,
not Monday. Oh, minute.
Okay, I like it.
So I'm gonna go ahead and go first. I'm gonna try and keep mine down to a minute, even though mine doesn't have minute in the title. A book that I've been reading this week is called Green Arrow Quiver. It came out in, I think, right around 1999 or 2000. It's written by Kevin Smith, director. I almost said Saving Private Ryan. That's not the movie that I was thinking of at all. Wow. Clerks, Mallrats, those kind of movies. That's Kevin Smith. He is a pretty decent director. Some people like him, some people hate him. But he wrote this Green Arrow story, and just basically wrote a story about all the things that he liked about Green Arrow. It's a pretty good story, and I'm not completely finished with it yet, but everything that I've read from it so far has been a lot of fun. So I recommend picking it up. It's by Kevin Smith with, I don't remember who the art is, so sue me. But check it out, Green Arrow Quiver.
Huh, interesting.
And it's not as fun as something, or it's not as good as I'm going to say as something like that I've shouted out about Vision or Grayson, which are two of my favorite runs right now. But it's still pretty good. So check it out. And we're going to go to your minute, Mitch.
All right.
Mitch's minute.
Okay, let's see if I can do this in a minute. Okay. The album I'm going to plug today is called The Joy of Motion by Animals as Leaders. Came out in 2014. If you're not familiar with Animals as Leaders, they're a prog metal band. Really interesting. It's two guitarists and a drummer, and the guitarists play 8-string guitars, 7 8-string guitars. They do a lot of tapping, a lot of very technical guitar work. I really enjoy it. It's all instrumental, no lyrics. Very, very melodic guitar work. It's really nice. My favorite songs on the album are Cascade, Physical Education, Paramexer, and The Woven Web. So check that out. The Joy of Motion by Animals as Leaders.
All right. And do we want to do a spiritual Chuck plug? What would he plug? He'd probably plug the fact that he is in the middle of nowhere drinking lots of alcohol and having really spotty internet. Do you think that's what he'd plug, or would he try and plug Game of Thrones? That's over. Game of Thrones is over. Never mind.
He could. I'm sure there's some fan theories about Game of Thrones floating out there already. So maybe he'd plug something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, either that or he'd just plug the fact that he's in the middle of nowhere called South Dakota. I'm calling it the middle of nowhere. No disrespect to you 3 South Dakota people that are Chuck's relatives and listen. But,
wow.
You know, I just went with it, whatever. But so Chuck's having a good time, having a little bit of spotty internet, but he's here in spirit and probably pretty glad that he didn't have to do a drunk podcast. So shout outs to Chuck. You're here with us, homie.
Shout out.
G.
I can feel you in spirit in this Audacity recording.
And that's how we're going to end. So thanks everyone for listening to the It's Always Sunny in Phoenix podcast. You can, of course, follow us on Twitter at SunnyandPHXPod. Find us on Facebook, Phoenix Suns Multiple Sources. Check out the website, multiplesources.net/Phoenix Suns. Email us, sunnyandphxpod@gmail.com. How about that? It's written right in front of my face. I'm an idiot. And of course, rate us on iTunes. Go to iTunes, leave us a review, download, rate, all that stuff. That's how we get bigger and how we know what we need to work on, or how we completely ignore you. One of those. I haven't decided which one.
I want to ignore you.
Aw, thanks. I get all the reviews from Mitch's. My milkshake brings all the Mitch to the yards. Anyways, thank you so much, guys, for listening to this train wreck of a podcast. We will see you next week, and hopefully Chuck will bring a little bit of order. Peace out, guys.
Go Suns.